have an old house or you're thinking about buying one and the thought of improving it is daunting, uneven floors, dodgy windows, wiring from the 50s, trust me, I know how you feel, I've been there myself. Fixing up an old house doesn't need to be that hard when you have a few smart ideas. We have 10 tips that will save you a whole lot of hassle and maybe even some money as well. So most houses here in New Zealand are built like my deck. A joist on top of a bearer on top of a post. Now the reason I bring that up now is because an old house is often uneven, and before you start any improving, any renovations, new doors, kitchens, whatever, check how level your floor is. It may sound intimidating, but it isn't that difficult to re-level a timber house. Back in Auckland, when I was doing renovations for clients, we did a villa renovation and we had to extend the villa. It was like a 100-plus-year-old house. And it wasn't until we went to put the foundations in that we realized just how out of level the back of the old house was. Now that's going to be a problem because you're trying to meet a brand new level floor with an old out of level floor. It doesn't work. So we rang around, we got a crew in, and they were able to put car jacks, literal car jacks, under the house, jack it up, make it level, and then we could put new piles in, and all of a sudden our new floor was connecting to a level older floor. We got lucky in that situation. It didn't hold the job up, but we benefited from it down the road. When the doors went in, they were level. When the kitchen went in, the cabinets could be put on a level floor. Even the skirting, when you've got a nice even floor, the skirting goes in quicker. So taking the time to check the level before any of the work is done is something I'll always do now when I renovate old houses. So tip 1, level your old house first. You don't necessarily have to rush out and replace old timber windows like this. Old single glazed timber windows can actually be better than double glazed aluminium if the double glazed aluminium isn't thermally broken. If you can, I would highly recommend doing what we did with Viridian, which is retrofit double glazing these old timber windows. But if double glazing the windows is too much of a job for you, just draft sealing the windows can make a huge difference for warmth. A lot of people replace timber windows like this here in New Zealand with aluminium inserts, and the issue with aluminium is that it conducts the heat. So if it's cold outside, your aluminium gets cold and it transfers that cold inside. Double glazed aluminium is an R value of 0.26. Single glazed wood are 0.27. So my single glazed timber windows have a higher R value than double glazed aluminium. High performance double glazed in a timber frame are 0.48. So we're like doubling our R value by putting high performance double glazing into our timber windows. But how crazy is that a single glazed timber is better or about the same as a double glazed aluminium non-thermally broken window? But timber does have the problem of maintenance. You have to upkeep it, you have to paint it, you have to seal it, all that stuff. So just consider that with your timber windows. You might be able to save them. I will always recommend tip 2, seal and or double glaze your timber windows.
Geez, it changes everything.
What does?
The gold reflection.
Does it? So we don't just like the way these curtains look. They also have a double purpose. They keep the house warm.
So we have velvet curtains, which is quite a thick material, but we also have a thermal backing on these. We also hung them right up to the ceiling, all the way to the floor. We did that because we do like the way it looks, but also it has the added benefit of keeping cold air on that side and keeping the warm air in here. And we have noticed the thermal difference from when they're open to when they're closed. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter how many layers of glazing you have in a window, it's never going to be as thermally efficient as a wall. But I mean, you know, like windows are nice, they let light in. Get thick curtains, because they really help with the warmth. Get velvet. Honestly, I've said this a million times, if we leave, they're coming with us. And like maybe one day I'll do a Maria von Trapp, turn them into an outfit.
Our next tip involves doing what we did right here.
But first you need to sort out that website.
Yes, you may have an old house, but it doesn't mean you need an old website. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform where you can build your online presence and run your business. And it doesn't matter if you're selling services or if you're selling products, you can do it all on Squarespace with their easy-to-use e-commerce tools. You can even invoice clients directly on the website as well. And in the website builder, they have portfolios and galleries, so you can really showcase your work. And Squarespace have even introduced Design Intelligence, which is an AI website building software. Once you input a bit of data to explain what kind of business you have, Design Intelligence takes over and creates a custom website to suit your business. And then you can still tweak and adjust things to get it just right. And you may be thinking, gee Scott, I've already got a website and I've got a custom domain name. What happens if I go over to Squarespace? Do I lose that? No is the answer, because they have domain transfer. You can transfer that custom domain name, and if you don't have a custom domain name already, you can get all that with Squarespace as well. So what are you waiting for? Head over to squarespace.com for their free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your own website, go to squarespace.com/Scott Brown Carpentry, and you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks, Squarespace. Does this look like a window? So a common issue with old houses is they're not very well connected with the garden, at least ours was. So we need to put a door in. Now here's a little tip. If you already have a window, which I'm pretty sure you do, don't make it any wider. Just take this thing out, and then you can make it into a door. If I took the sill of this window out and I wanted to make the door wider than this, I would have to find a way to re-support this. Moving this is where all the effort and time and cost comes in. This is called the lintel, and you need to find a way to re-support this lintel if you make the door wider. If you can live with a skinnier door, you can use the old lintel and you can save a lot of money and still have your house connect to your garden. So tip 4, keep your door width the same as an existing window. Plus the next tip unfortunately involves being under the house. But I don't spend time under here, I usually pay people to do that.
Hope is a dangerous thing in a place like this. Hope could drive a man insane.
Black polythene. Laying this out over the earth underneath your floor is a pretty inexpensive way to maintain a bit of warmth in your house. What it does is it helps prevent the rising damp coming out of the soil and into your floorboards and floor. And also adding insulation up where your floorboards are like that can really help with the warmth of your house too. And the other thing is beefing up the insulation in your ceiling. We are adding 2 layers on our ceiling, and the way we did that is putting an additional layer of insulation in between the ceiling joists, which isn't typically what people do, and then putting the more conventional insulation over the top of those ceiling joists. By doing that, you're effectively doubling up your insulation. If you're willing to do it, it doesn't cost that much, and it'll increase the warmth of your house by a significant amount. So tip 5, add insulation where it counts. Kitchens. I went through all the trouble of building a brand new kitchen, new cabinets, new fronts. Everything you see is new. But now that it's all done, all you really see is the outside. Now, this is a very niche tip and probably won't apply to everybody with an old house, but if the kitchen in your house is only, say, 20 years old, you may be able to do what we did on past jobs and refurbish it.
If you have like a 90s and early 2000s kitchen that looks a bit dated, but is actually functional, not damaged, and maybe you even like the layout, you can take off all the fronts, get them re-spray painted, replace the handles and replace the bench top. It will still cost you a bit of money to do it well, but it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than a whole new kitchen. My uncle did it, Scott's mum also did it to her kitchen, and both of their kitchens looked brand new. We weren't able to do that with our old kitchen because it was a piece of shit. The highlight of this bench so far has been when a little plant started growing out of the edge here. So that was fun. So, you know, that ship had sailed for us. If it's an option for you, it can be a great way to save some money and essentially have a new looking kitchen.
For cheap.
For cheaper. Well, hey, maybe you know a spray painter.
So tip 6, refurbish your kitchen, don't replace it. Tip 7. What is tip 7? When we bought this old house, this one here, we also bought an old garage, and I knew from day one that I wasn't going to renovate the garage, but it was leaking, so I had to do something about that. What we did is we restored the roof, the existing roof. We repainted it. We also added some underlay. That was probably a bit extra. I don't know if I'd recommend that. But the painting is the thing I'm talking about here. If you've got an old iron roof like ours, just repainting it could be an option. You don't have to get a $20,000 new roof and all the extra stuff that comes with that. Another thing to keep in mind is check the fixings of your old roof. We have lead nails on our old roof and we probably need to replace them. But that is an option as well. You could pull your nails out and replace them with screws and then just paint the roof. So tip 7, repaint your roof, don't replace your roof. Speaking of painting, paint your fence. In the case of our property, we have many different types of fences, and painting them one uniform colour made a huge difference.
Yeah, we have a couple of old fences that looked pretty terrible. Then when we painted them all this nice green, it actually looks quite tidy. Plus, painting your fence a darker colour, this was white and it really stood out. And to be honest, the darker you go, the better that looks. So like navy blues, dark greens, and even to some extent black can actually disappear behind your planting. So if your garden's looking a little tired, maybe it's your fence, maybe it stands out too much, consider painting it and painting it dark.
So tip 8.
Paint your fence.
Tip 9. This one isn't as fun, but it's very important. Wiring. Check your wiring for safety. All of this is new because as soon as our electrician came here and saw the state of our old wires, he said, for your safety, you should probably get a new switchboard. And he didn't push the matter.
Yeah, check it.
Looking awfully technical here, Amanda.
Yeah.
And we kind of put it off. And then one day we just kind of asked him, oh, how dangerous is it? And he was like, yeah, it's really dangerous. Your house could burn down. So we're like, okay, let's sort it out. So we got a whole new switchboard. Now the problem with old houses is they often have old cables that have the insulation that goes on the outside of the copper dries, becomes brittle, and then cracks off. And then you have the copper completely exposed. That can lead to a fire. Even just adding RCDs will help. If there's an overload somewhere in our house, this will trip and the electrical problem stops there. It's worth the money because if you burn your house down, that will cost you way more. So tip 9, check your wiring for safety. Some of these tips were minor, some of these ideas were a bit more complex. And maybe you've gone through them and you're thinking, well, I'm actually keen to do more of a renovation, something a bit more substantial. Well, tip 10 is first get a designer.
When I think back to the ideas that we were playing with before we got a designer involved, they were nowhere near as good as what we've done. I'm so glad that we invested the money in getting a good designer. I really think that it has saved us money in the long run, and it has saved us from making mistakes that would be very expensive. Our architects are awesome. You should check them out if you're in New Zealand. They're called Fine Line Architecture Nelson, and I couldn't recommend them more. Having a designer has been such a nice process. Even just being able to bounce ideas off them is going to be so much better than, like us, just bouncing ideas between two people who really have no clue. I really recommend getting an architect if you're going to go and do a proper renovation. Otherwise, just whack a bit of insulation in the ceiling, slap some dark paint on the fence.
Paint your roof.
There's a lot of things you can do to make your old house look better and feel better. You don't need to be scared of them.
So what are some of the things that you've done to make your house better, your old house? And what are the things that terrify you about your old house?
Let's scare each other in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. And if you just want to watch me do it, I'll put a playlist right about here somewhere of us renovating this house from the start to the not quite finished.